Yes, it was Buck Rogers back in the original version.
You
He's a World War I pilot and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Now, were you...
A man once stood at the center of a futuristic TV empire, frozen in time as a hero the world couldn't forget. Years later, that same man weighed over 350 pounds, quietly losing roles, money, and control of his own body. Gil Gerard lived both extremes. Fame came fast, collapsed even faster, and then, shockingly, his most dramatic transformation didn't happen on screen at all. It happened in a hospital, with cameras rolling, while the world watched him fight for his life. From sci-fi icon to health crisis to an unexpected comeback, his story wasn't a straight line. And just when it finally felt stable, it ended in a way no one saw coming. This wasn't just Buck Rogers. This was a man constantly battling the cost of being seen. And what came next made everything before it feel like a warning. Gil Gerard was born Gilbert Cyril Gerard on January 23, 1943, in Little Rock, Arkansas. He was the youngest of 3 boys in a household where money worries lingered quietly in the background. His father sold for a living. His mother taught college classes and ran the home with discipline that didn't bend. There was no room for drifting. Confidence wasn't encouraged, it was required. Growing up, Gil learned early that attention didn't come automatically. You had to earn it. That pressure shaped him. At Little Rock Catholic High School for Boys, 2 sides of him emerged at once. One chased athletics. The other chased the stage. Competing, performing, being noticed, it all fed the same hunger. Even without wealth or connections, his mother kept him constantly involved, as if motion itself could protect him. That constant push became armor, and it quietly trained him for a life where standing still was never an option. At 17, Gil made a move that confused nearly everyone around him. He entered St. Mary of the Lake Seminary in Illinois, aiming for the priesthood. It sounded like a complete rejection of the life he seemed built for. But something unexpected happened inside those walls. While studying faith, he found himself pulled deeper into performance. On stage, he played Harold Hill in an all-male production of The Music Man. The role demanded charm, confidence, and persuasion. Harold Hill wasn't just a singer, he was a salesman. A man who convinced people to believe. Gil didn't just play the part. He discovered something about himself. He could command a room. He could make people listen. That realization hit harder than any sermon. The seminary didn't quiet his hunger for attention. It sharpened it. And once that switch flipped, there was no turning it off. Trying to silence that pull, Gil returned to Arkansas and enrolled at what was then Arkansas State Teachers College, studying chemistry. On paper, it was perfect, stable, respectable, predictable. But every lecture felt heavier than the last. The lab coats and textbooks couldn't drown out the voice telling him this wasn't his path. By 1967, he dropped out before earning a degree. It was a decision that never stopped following him. In Hollywood, credentials matter, and that missing diploma would later become a quiet threat, resurfacing when he least expected it. Still, Gil didn't spiral. He pivoted again. Almost immediately, he landed a job as an industrial chemist for a company connected to Arkansas Governor Winthrop Rockefeller. It looked like redemption. From the outside, it looked like he had corrected course. But the truth was more fragile than it appeared. Between 1967 and 1971, Gil climbed fast. He became a regional manager. He earned trust. He earned authority. Colleagues saw a rising executive with a locked-in future. Then came the offer that changed everything. A vice presidency, one condition attached. He'd need a master's degree. That was the moment the past caught up. Gil didn't have the college diploma everyone assumed he did. He could have faked it. Many would have. Instead, he made a decision that revealed the core of who he was. He resigned. He walked away from security, money, and prestige rather than live inside a lie. That choice shocked everyone around him. But it also exposed a pattern that would define his entire career. Gil Gerard would always choose control over comfort, even when it cost him everything. And once he walked away, there was no going back. Once Gil resigned, the safety net vanished instantly. No corporate ladder, no backup plan. Just a decision already made and no way to undo it. In the early 1970s, he packed up and moved to New York City to chase acting for real. The dream sounded glamorous. The reality was brutal. Rent didn't care about ambition. So Gil drove a taxi at night, memorizing streets and faces, then studied acting by day. Sleep came in fragments. Confidence came and went. Every audition felt like a test he wasn't sure he belonged in. But then something happened that still feels unreal. One night, he picked up a passenger who listened to him talk about acting, struggle, and survival. Before getting out, the man told Gil to show up at the set of Love Story, which was filming nearby. Most people would have laughed it off. Gil didn't. He went. The role he landed was tiny. It was cut. But it earned him his first IMDb credit. More importantly, it proved something that stayed with him forever. Doors don't always open loudly. Sometimes they crack open when you least expect it. And once Gil saw that crack, he refused to stop pushing. The years that followed weren't glamorous, but they were relentless. Gil kept driving a cab, kept auditioning, and slowly became a familiar face without becoming a known name. Then came the commercials. Hundreds of them. Nearly 400 by some counts. By the mid-1970s, he was everywhere, selling cars, products, ideas. He even became a major spokesman for Ford Motor Company. The money helped. The exposure helped. But something else happened too. Casting directors stopped seeing past the smile. He wasn't an actor to them anymore. He was a pitchman, reliable, polished, and boxed in. It was a strange trap. He was working constantly, yet drifting further from the kind of roles he wanted. The irony burned. He had fought so hard to escape corporate life, only to end up branded again, this time by advertising. Still, he didn't quit. He used the commercials to fund something bigger. Because while the industry was laughing at his visibility, Gil was quietly building stamina, timing, and camera control that most actors never develop. And that training would matter more than anyone realized. Instead of waiting for permission, Gil took roles that came with risk. In 1971, he appeared in Some of My Best Friends Are, a gay-themed film released at a time when Hollywood still treated those stories like landmines. It wasn't safe casting. It wasn't career padding. It was a statement. In 1974, he followed it with Man on a Swing, directed by Frank D. Gilroy, playing Donald Forbes. These weren't blockbuster parts, but they showed range. They showed nerve. Gil wasn't chasing stardom yet. He was chasing credibility. Each role added weight, slowly pulling him away from the commercial-only image. And while most people didn't notice the pattern forming, Gil did. He understood something crucial early on. Careers don't turn overnight. They turn quietly, one uncomfortable decision at a time. And those decisions were starting to line up. By 1977, the groundwork finally started paying off. Gil appeared on Hawaii Five-0 as Marty Cobb, a former cop battling alcoholism. The character wasn't flashy. He was cracked, human, vulnerable, and that mattered. It aired in October. Around the same time, he appeared on Little House on the Prairie as Chris Nelson, a wandering carpenter taken in by the Ingalls family. The episode aired October 3, 1977. It looked small on paper. It wasn't. Michael Landon noticed him. That single reaction quietly changed everything. Because Landon didn't just praise him, he cast him. When an industry heavyweight sees you differently, the ripple travels fast. Gil had finally crossed from working actor into actor to watch, and the timing couldn't have been more dangerous. That trust turned into Killing Stone. The role demanded restraint, anger, and emotional weight. It stripped away charm and left raw nerve. For the first time, Gil wasn't supporting someone else's story. He was the story. Producers noticed. So did Gil. And instead of waiting for the next call, he pushed further. He formed Prudhomme Productions and helped create Hooch, a film he co-wrote, produced, and starred in. He even put his own money on the line. Playing a moonshiner dodging law enforcement and criminal forces, Gil proved something critical. He could lead. He could build. He could risk everything on himself. That gamble didn't just change his resume. It set him on a collision course with the role that would define, and later nearly destroy, his life. By the late 1970s, everything Gil Gerard had been stacking quietly finally aligned. Soap operas, commercials, guest roles, TV movies. Each piece had trained him for pressure without him realizing it. From 1973 to 1976, he'd appeared in over 300 episodes of The Doctors as Dr. Alan Stewart, a grueling schedule that hardened his discipline and endurance. It wasn't glamorous work, but it taught him how to survive long shoots, heavy dialogue, and relentless pacing. When Killing Stone aired, producers no longer saw a pitchman or a soap actor. They saw a lead who could carry emotional weight. Momentum like that doesn't announce itself. It just suddenly feels undeniable. And before we go further, if you're enjoying how this story is unfolding, hit the like button so this reaches more viewers who love untold Hollywood stories. Subscribe if you want deep dives like this every week. And here's a question for you. Do you think Gil's biggest strength was his talent or his refusal to compromise, even when it hurt him? Because that trait was about to put him on the biggest stage of his life. When the offer for Buck Rogers in the 25th Century came in 1979, Gil Gerard didn't feel excitement. He felt doubt. In fact, he turned it down. Then he turned it down again. Television sci-fi still carried a stigma, and Gil had worked too hard to be taken seriously. He didn't trust the genre, and he didn't trust that the role wouldn't trap him forever. But the producers didn't stop calling. They told him the studio had spent They warned him that chances like this rarely came twice. Slowly, fear replaced skepticism. Fear of missing the one role that could change everything. Eventually, he said yes. Not because he believed in it, but because he was afraid of walking away. That hesitation mattered. Because even before cameras rolled, Gil never fully believed Buck Rogers would last. And that doubt followed him straight onto the set. The pilot didn't just air. It exploded. Released theatrically in March 1979, it pulled in more than The attention was massive, but something was missing. Confidence. Gil didn't feel secure in the success. Instead of enjoying the moment, he questioned how long it would last. NBC quickly ordered a full series. And from 1979 to 1981, Buck Rogers in the 25th Century ran for 37 episodes. Gil's Buck wasn't polished or noble. He was sarcastic, impatient, and rough around the edges. Some viewers loved it, others didn't. That split reaction only fed Gil's anxiety. Fame had arrived before he felt ready to carry it. As the show continued, Gil grew increasingly frustrated with the writing. He felt the stories jumped around, relying on explosions and spectacle instead of logic or character depth. To him, Buck Rogers wasn't a joke. He was a hero. And Gil became obsessed with protecting that image. If a script suggested someone else saving the day, he pushed back. During the second season finale, he refused to let Wilma Daring rescue Buck, insisting the hero must always remain central. Writers wanted balance. Gil wanted control. Tension spread fast. Scripts stalled. Rewrites piled up. He clashed with story editor Ann Collins and script supervisor Alan Brenner so intensely that both quit mid-season. NBC grew nervous. At one point, the network even warned Gil that legal action was possible if production delays continued. What Gil saw as artistic protection, the studio saw as sabotage, and neither side was willing to bend. Then Gil said the quiet part out loud. In November 1980, he gave an interview to Starlog magazine and admitted he hoped the show would be canceled. He called it a wise-ass joke fest and said he dreaded another season like the first. Fans were stunned. Networks were furious. Actors weren't supposed to speak like that about hit shows, especially ones still on the air. Those words stuck. Many believe they pushed NBC toward ending the series in April 1981 without a proper finale. Ironically, while the show unraveled, Buck Rogers' merchandise was booming. Action figures, ships, and playsets sold fast. The brand thrived. The man inside it was miserable. Gil had become famous for a role he was actively trying to escape. And once the show ended, the fall wasn't slow. It was immediate. And what followed was far darker than anyone watching from the outside realized. By the second season, Buck Rogers wasn't just a job, it was a battlefield. Gil's insistence on control had reshaped the atmosphere on set. Writers felt sidelined. Directors felt boxed in. Scenes that should have taken hours dragged into days. Gil demanded rewrites, rejected comedic lines, and fought anything that made Buck look foolish. Executives warned him the audience liked the camp. Gil didn't care. To him, comedy weakened the hero. That gap between what he wanted and what the show was built to be never closed. Cast members began to feel the divide. Collaboration turned into tension. Even moments meant to feel light carried strain underneath. Gil also insisted on doing many of his own stunts, believing Buck had to look fearless at all times. Minor injuries stacked up. Frustration spread quietly. What once felt like momentum now felt like a countdown. And the irony was brutal. The harder Gil fought to protect Buck Rogers, the more isolated he became from everyone around him. From the outside, it still looked like a win. Ratings were strong. Merchandise was everywhere. Kids were buying action figures while parents watched reruns in syndication. But Gil wasn't celebrating. He felt trapped. Tipcasting terrified him more than unemployment. He worried that once Buck Rogers ended, casting directors would only see the jumpsuit, not the actor. Behind the scenes, NBC was growing exhausted. Each episode cost nearly $1 million, an enormous expense at the time. After the 1980 actors' strike, the second season was cut down to just 11 episodes. Morale collapsed. Gil's public complaints didn't help. The network had enough. In April 1981, Buck Rogers in the 25th Century was canceled. No proper send-off, no victory lap. The role that made him famous ended not with applause, but with relief. And when the cameras shut off, Gil was left alone with a question he hadn't prepared for. Who was he without Buck Rogers? The fall hit fast. By the mid-1980s, Gil's personal life unraveled alongside his career. After a painful divorce from actress Connie Sellecca, he spiraled into heavy cocaine and alcohol use. Fame had lifted him quickly, but it hadn't taught him how to land. His weight climbed. Roles slowed. Health warnings followed. By his own admission, nearly $1 million in opportunities slipped away during this period. Producers grew cautious. Long shoots, travel, physical demands. He struggled with all of it. His marriages mirrored the chaos. His first lasted 8 months. The second collapsed after years of separation. His third ended in heartbreak. Each ending left him more drained, more unsteady. From the outside, he was still working, TV movies, guest roles, short-lived series, but inside, it was survival mode. The confidence that once carried him through auditions was gone, and the body that once sold heroism on screen was starting to fail him. When Gil stepped away from drugs and alcohol, the fight didn't end. It shifted. Compulsive eating replaced substances. Control found a new outlet. By the late 1980s, his weight passed 300 pounds. Eventually, it reached nearly 300. Without the schedule, without the spotlight, everything unraveled. Work continued, but it wasn't healing. Shows like Sidekicks, TV movies, and guest appearances kept him busy, not better. He blamed himself. He blamed fame. He blamed the role that had both made and broken him. Years passed like this, working just enough to stay afloat while his body carried the cost of decades of pressure. And eventually, survival demanded a decision he could no longer postpone. By 2005, Gil Gerard's health had reached a breaking point. At 63 years old, facing severe diabetes and mounting risks, he made a decision that would once again put his life in front of cameras. But this time, there was no script. He underwent mini-gastric bypass surgery, a drastic step that many saw as a last resort. The procedure wasn't hidden. Discovery Health documented the entire process. What followed stunned people. He lost 20 pounds in just 5 days, then 80 pounds in 3 months. 10 months later, he had dropped 145 pounds. His diabetes reversed. His energy returned. The transformation aired in 2007 as Action Hero Makeover, and it turned Gil into something unexpected, a symbol of late-life survival. He didn't sell it as easy. He didn't pretend it fixed everything. But for the first time in decades, Gil wasn't running from collapse. He was rebuilding. And just when life finally felt steady again, another unexpected chapter was waiting. By the early 1970s, the illusion of old Hollywood had fully cracked. The studio system that once controlled every frame, every contract, and every life no longer had the power to protect its own legends. Many stars who once dominated marquees found themselves forgotten almost overnight. Some were pushed aside by younger faces. Others were quietly erased due to scandals, rumors, or simply refusing to conform. Hollywood didn't just move fast, it moved ruthlessly. Careers that took decades to build could collapse in months. What's chilling is how normalized this became. Executives spoke of people the way they spoke of props: replaceable, disposable, forgotten. For actors who had sacrificed privacy, relationships, and even health for fame, the fall was devastating. And yet, the public rarely saw this side. Fan magazines stayed glossy. Interviews stayed polite. Behind closed doors, however, the cost of fame was being paid in silence. Old Hollywood wasn't just a dream factory. It was a machine that never looked back. The contracts were ironclad. 7-year deals that dictated hairstyles, diets, relationships, even marriages. Stars were told who to love, who to avoid, and what image they were allowed to project. Breaking those rules meant punishment, shelved films, canceled roles, or worse, reputation destruction. Some actors tried to fight back, only to discover the system was designed to win. Others complied, slowly losing their sense of identity. The public believed these stars lived perfect lives, but many felt trapped inside characters they could never escape. Depression, addiction, and isolation quietly spread behind studio gates. What makes this era haunting is not just what Hollywood showed the world, but what it hid. Smiles were mandatory, vulnerability was forbidden, and the price of disobedience was professional death. Decades later, old Hollywood is still romanticized. The black and white glamour, the elegant premieres, the idea that talent alone guaranteed success. But history tells a darker truth. Talent wasn't enough, obedience mattered more. Many careers thrived not because of brilliance, but because of silence. The stories we were sold were carefully edited, much like the films themselves. Biographies skipped uncomfortable truths. Documentaries softened harsh realities. Even today, audiences struggle to separate the myth from the human beings behind it. When we rewatch these films, we're not just watching performances, we're witnessing survival. Each smile on screen often masked exhaustion, fear, or pressure we'll never fully understand. For many stars, the most painful moment wasn't rising to fame. It was realizing how quickly Hollywood abandoned them. Once the box office numbers dipped or a scandal whispered its way into studio offices, support vanished. Phone calls stopped, roles dried up, friends disappeared. Some actors were quietly blacklisted without explanation, punished for aging, speaking out, or simply losing their market value. Mental health struggles were ignored, mocked, or covered up. Addiction became a coping mechanism, not a scandal to be treated. The cruel irony was that the same industry that demanded perfection offered no mercy when cracks appeared. Studios controlled the narrative, rewriting history while the people who built it faded into obscurity. Many former icons lived their final years far from the cameras, alone, financially unstable, and emotionally shattered. Their downfall wasn't sudden, it was slow and silent. Hollywood didn't destroy them overnight. It watched them disappear and never looked back. Today, we celebrate old Hollywood as a golden age. But gold, under pressure, still bends. Behind every classic performance was a human being navigating fear, control, and impossible expectations. These stars were not just legends, they were workers inside a system designed to profit from obedience and discard vulnerability. Their stories matter because they reveal the cost of fame when humanity is stripped away. As audiences, revisiting these films should come with awareness, not guilt, but respect. Respect for the sacrifices that were never acknowledged, and for the voices that were never allowed to speak. Old Hollywood didn't just shape cinema. It shaped cautionary lessons that still echo today. The real legacy isn't just the films we admire. It's the reminder that glamour often hides suffering. And remembering that truth is the only way these stories finally get the ending they deserved.